Everyone, John Donnelly is my name from Your Holistic Academy, and a very special guest with me today, Jesse Lucas. How are you doing today, Jesse?
Hi, John. I'm awesome. Thank you.
Good, good. Jesse, I wanted to talk to you today about your work, which is around embodied movement. So your website is Embodied Movement Training, and you would describe yourself as a movement educator, yeah?
Yes, that's right.
All righty. So tell me some more about that. How did you get involved in that, Jesse?
So, my background, I've been a yoga teacher, a personal trainer. I've done some hands-on body work, all of that for going on almost 20 years now. And I have loved the ability to teach people how to move their body. And, it started out with yoga, teaching people like you would traditionally go to a yoga class or learn from an instructor. When I added the fitness piece a few years later, and I have to tell you, I was not a fitness person. I having people come in to my yoga classes from I taught at gyms, and they would come in like, your hamstrings are tight, your muscles are imbalanced, you look like you're just pushing that whole no pain no gain thing. That was not my attitude towards the body. But I came upon fitness at a time in my life when I was going through some really difficult personal life changes myself. I was a single mom to two little boys. I was needing more bookable hours. I was given an opportunity. It was kind of an offer I couldn't refuse. And the happy accident of that was, one, I found there were people who really wanted to learn learn fitness, learn strength, learn to be solid in their bodies, to make some physical changes, and wanted a more kind of holistic approach to it. So I kind of became a holistic personal trainer. I loved teaching people alignment. I loved getting people out of pain. I loved teaching people kind of to be more functional and perform better in their bodies, but feeling better from the inside. But the real happy accident was this discovery of embodied movement when I was literally practicing these fitness moves, which were foreign to me at the time, feeling kind of silly, honestly. But I had this moment where I was lifting these weights, and granted, they weren't very heavy. I just was kind of going through the motions, practicing for this training, studying the skills. And I had this moment of combustion that just said, oh my gosh, I feel strong. And it was this sense of inner strength. It wasn't my little baby biceps there. It was this sense of inner strength. And like I said, I was going through some really rough times. I was going through a divorce. I was leaving an abusive marriage. There was a lot of inner damage going on. And I had been doing a lot of holistic therapies, and still nothing was really budging my stubborn brain that was still really operating in fear and in fight, flight, and freeze, and in some of these negative patterns. And I had this aha moment, like, oh my gosh, like something very surprising just happened there, and something very powerful just kind of pushed through that neural net that was very stubborn. And so fast forward a few years, I ended up going back to school to really study that, to study. So this is really the answer to what is embodied movement. I kind of took all of the mind over matter, the mind over body approaches, and flipped them upside down. And I said, what happens when we approach through body first? And not to negate the other way around, but just to say, what happens when we come through the physical, as the term I know you've come to love, the kinesthetic intelligence. What happens there to influence your emotional awareness, your emotional intelligence, your emotional health? What happens there with this body wisdom when you can change it through changing movement patterns to your mental health, to those neural nets? So that's basically why I consider myself a movement educator now, because I've kind of broadened out from the space of just teaching yoga and personal training to really teaching how to connect those dots up that up that kinesthetic chain, if you will. So
Yeah.
I hope that answers your question. It's a little long-winded.
Jesse, yeah. So it really relates because I you know, personally in my journey, like I was very, very fit for a long time through running and football and stuff like that. And then I lost all that fitness, and then I got it back again. But then I wasn't fully aware of the sort of I guess the body sensations, and obviously you basically pick up a lot of trauma along the way, and conflict along the way in your life, and I wasn't really aware that all that was sort of almost stuck to your body almost. and how do you release that stress and trauma, and that's the sort of area that that's the area that you're sort of teaching people, Jesse. Yeah.
Absolutely. You just really spoke to kind of one of the main pillars that when I'm teaching this is kind of one of the first things that we address. I have this methodology that goes release, realign, strengthen, refine. And all of that, especially those of us in the holistic world, we've kind of heard, all the different ways of saying the same thing, that our body stores our history. We have these stuck emotions or these experiences that kind of live in our body, for better and for worse, right? That it's just kind of all in there. So in that first pillar of release, there's a few things to get to that. I'll say entering through a gateway of safety. A lot of people kind of really have to build a new relationship with feeling safe in their body. And I'm talking about from a nervous system level, from really being able to gain some presence and ease and resiliency so that you can start to pick up on these signals that are stored in your body. But what you just spoke to with all those experiences kind of stuck to your body, I like to say we can't build new movement patterns on top of old ones. If you have a lifetime, however many years you've been around the sun, however many years you've been on this planet, you have these experiences, and maybe from birth and maybe from even before that have informed how you are holding your body, how you are inhabiting this physical structure. And it's like I liken it to like a vessel, right? So I have my cup of water here, and the shape of the glass is informing the shape that the liquid takes inside. Same with your body. All of the constrictions of the muscles, the pulls of your connective tissue informs the fluid flow, informs how the nervous system signals fire. It informs the patterns. We've all heard that neurons that fire together wire together. Well, when you can gain that awareness of all of that is stuck to you or within you, you can start to kind of light up those switchboards and understand what are those stories, what are the sensory components of them, and start to kind of shift those stuck stories in your body to create a new level of vitality. I fully believe in healthy aging, and I believe this is a key component in that.
Absolutely, Jesse. And again, in later years, Tai Chi and Qigong was my sort of, I guess, my go-to for the movement that I needed for my body. And obviously, at a certain age, it has to be sort of maybe a bit more gentle than I would have done when I was younger. So the practices. So it's about, I guess, about developing the practices, but first of all, teaching the awareness as to what's actually going on, and then giving people the practices that suit them. Yeah.
Absolutely. Because I think once you open up that world of awareness, it's really answering the question, when people say, listen to your body, we really aren't taught the skills. What does that mean? Listen to your body. A lot of us have really disassociated or disembodied or disconnected because either we're carrying so much stress, or we're just too busy, or we just have so much sensory input stored that there's too much information to process. So this is really teaching those skills of listening to your body, of tuning in, and what does that actually mean? And when you can do that, then you can move into, so that's, that body awareness piece, moving into that releasing, moving into then the realigning, bringing things more into balance. And then the strengthening part, you can build a more kind of grounded, powerful presence in your body through all of the ages and stages, through all of the seasons. And then refine is really just about fine tuning that and being able to use those same skills as life changes. But to your point of, eventually finding Tai Chi and things like that, I think this level of awareness can really be applied to any movement modality and even outside of movement modalities. So, if Tai Chi isn't your thing, or if yoga isn't your thing, it can be applied to taking walks in your neighborhood. It can be applied to how are you sitting when you're at your desk, or standing when you're doing the dishes, or how your body posturing is when you're interacting with other people. So this movement education is really about learning how to move however you move, whether it's a dedicated movement like a modality or a practice, or how you move throughout your day.
Yeah. And the important thing is that you do move, and that you move on a regular basis. So even all of the people, a lot of the business coaches now spend hour after hour after hour on Zoom calls. So they need to learn about, hey, how to actually move during a Zoom call, for example. And how to sit, and what's the correct posture when you're actually sitting on the call. So all those little tips and techniques, Jessie.
Yeah, there's been this move recently, and especially with a lot of people working from home, to standing desks.
Yeah.
And to go from sitting to standing. And those of us kind of deep in the movement space know that I've heard it said standing is the new sitting. Yeah. Look, it gives you a different posture. I am a big fan of the standing desk, so I'm not saying don't do it, but movement is really the key. And if you have been on Zooms with me, you will see me in all, my chair turns. I'm sitting now more in this past year doing things like this, but I've got to keep moving. And you're right, it's the keeping moving so we don't get stagnant. A lot of the older medical approaches, like ancient Chinese medicine and Ayurveda, they describe health as movement. If you have movement, you have vitality. And it's when things get stuck, when energy gets stuck, when fluid flow gets stuck. Think of like a creek or a river, and you have a little part where the water kind of pools and it's still, right? That's where the murk and the muck kind of collect. Like you just said, movement is the key. So we don't collect that murk and the muck.
Sure. And you mentioned energy there, Jessie, and of course, everything is energy. So we got to think, when I think holistic, I think physical, mental, emotional, spiritual, and energetic. So it's all energy. And so it's all those components. And you introduced me to a term, kinesthetic intelligence. And I thought, wow, that's another level from, okay, we've got mental intelligence, we've got emotional intelligence, now we've got kinesthetic intelligence, which is probably a term that maybe not that many people are familiar with.
I'm hoping that it's this next set of years that term becomes more familiar. If you look back a couple of generations where mental intelligence kind of became the thing, right? We became aware, we could measure it. With the IQ, we became aware that we could improve our mental intelligence with different, mental skills and studying and learning new things and keeping our brain active. And in the last, let's say, decade or so, 15 years maybe, emotional intelligence has become more well known. Even outside of these quirky little holistic corners in health and wellness, people more broadly are aware, even if they think they are horrible at it, they're aware that emotional intelligence is a thing. It might be something they're still trying to hide in a corner and not deal, put on a shelf and not deal with it, but they're aware it's a thing. And some people have really taken it on to make it as important as that mental intelligence. And I think we are on the tip right now of understanding that unless we put kinesthetic intelligence, and if this is a new term to you guys who are listening, your kinesthetic intelligence is truly just the wisdom of all of the information stored in your body, your kinesthetic self. So that could be your sense of proprioception. So you're probably aware of, your 5 main senses. Your sense of proprioception is, where is your body in space? Like if I'm holding my glass of water, I'm aware there's more weight in this hand than there is in this hand. I'm aware that this shoulder is at a different angle than this shoulder. Things like that. So that level of awareness down to, aches and pains and more subtle and more subtle and more subtle than that, that's your kinesthetic intelligence. And I fully believe that this is the next level of learning. And when we can put it all together, when we can integrate the kinesthetic intelligence with the emotional intelligence, with the mental intelligence, we have a more whole, true sense of ourselves, and probably then have access to that energetic or that spiritual part, because we're not cutting off parts of this beautiful human body.
Sure. Yeah. I guess, Jessie, again, for me, it was like sport was my sort of natural way of accessing that awareness. But if you think about the mental intelligence was almost, the focus was always about mental intelligence in school, in the school system, the university system, the education system. And if people accessed sort of a natural body awareness through sport, then that was okay. But then when you leave that sporting environment, you don't know how to access it again, in the sense of you haven't really been taught how to access that kinesthetic intelligence.
Yeah, I think this is what we should be teaching to our children, in physical education, in schools and all along the way. And so right now it's up to us, right? Right now it's up to us to recognize if this light bulb is just going off of, those of us who are on kind of a holistic path, we probably already have some practices, whether they're physical practices or spiritual practices that are a gateway to this level of self-awareness, but to take it into really understanding. And here's the thing, John, this is so simple. I think it kind of ties everything together. And it, you can, if you're nerdy like me, go into understanding, the functions of the nervous system and the parts of your brain and, fluid flow, all of that. But it really is just a matter of kind of learning how to remove any of the blocks so that you have access. I believe, our bodies are so intelligent. If you cut your finger, you don't have to think about that finger healing. It's going to just heal unless there's other information, right? Like an infection or, something, if there's something disrupting that path of healing, but it's just going to do it. So our bodies have this intelligence. That intelligence is innate. So it's just a matter of removing any of the blocks. Blocks could be tension. It could be if we are guarding, if we have had traumatic experiences that keep us from feeling fully ourselves, right? So there are things in the way. And then it's a matter of just fine tuning that a little. Like you could fine tune your palate for fine wine. You can fine tune your palate to pick up on these signals. But not that I'm a connoisseur of, I don't know all those notes in wine, but I think it's probably more simple to learn these notes in your body. But unless you have an environment to do that in, like a sport or something like that, that's teaching you, we just don't. And I hope that's what's happening now. I hope that, and this is one of the reasons why I know we were going to talk about this professional development course I have. This is why I want to start teaching other wellness professionals these somatic skills, because they are simple, they are accessible, and I believe they must be integrated into any of the other approaches and avenues in wellness.
So you mentioned the word somatics there, Jessie. Again, that's probably a term that maybe a lot of people are not familiar with. So what is somatics?
So soma is your body. It's just one of those, it's an old term, and it literally just means your body. So if you're looking at somatic approaches, somatic therapies, somatic understanding. It just means in the body. It just means body-based, where, you know, the all stuff in your body. It just means body.
Yeah. And then the other term you introduced recently was nutrigenomics, which I need to find out what, because I'd heard the term a few times, but I didn't really understand it either. So obviously nutrition and the effect of nutrition on the cells and all that, that's an important part of everything as well.
Yeah. So the short story there, and this could be a whole nother talk. Back when I was doing my graduate studies and kind of figuring out, you know, flipping that mind over matter to matter over mind, you know, mind body to body mind, I kept coming up against, well, what happens to the functioning of your cells, no matter which angle you're approaching from, no matter where you're coming in from, our cells are still always in interaction with the environment. That could be the environment from within. If we are living in a high stressful situation, whether that's an acute current event stress or an ongoing kind of chronic low grade stress, you know, we have cortisol, we have adrenaline, we have all of those things affecting, kind of saturating the functioning of our cells, decreasing the good functioning of our cells, right? We'll keep this kind of like good guys, bad guys. And then, you know, the external environment, and I don't even want to go off on a tangent there, but, you know, the clarity of our water, the cleanliness of our air, the quality of our food, the EMFs, the plastics, you know, not to mention any chemicals that, you know, but in our products that we put on our skin or that we don't even know we were exposed to. Some of you, if you've heard me speak before, you know, I lost my father a few years ago, and he passed away of a cancer that was initiated by Agent Orange exposure in Vietnam. He was drafted into the Vietnam War. And so for all of those decades, a toxic exposure that happened many, many years before, he lived very happy, very healthy, very vibrant until the switch flipped, until that toxic burden took over the high functioning of our cells. So we don't know what's going on. And I think what we are learning, what the science is showing us, is that all of this, you know, we are not living on the earth of 50 years ago. All of this, the higher levels of internal stress, the higher levels that our cells are pushing off, the stressors coming from all of those resources and more, our cells are not equipped to fight that intensive a battle. So that's where, you know, high nutrition, obviously, you know, we all know all the right things: drink plenty of water, eat nutrient dense foods, cut as much crud out as you can. But even when you do that, there's a baseline where we just need to up our game a little bit. And that's where this little tweak comes in, where nutrition can be used genomically. So nutrition genomics, using key synergistic combinations of specific nutrients to initiate a genetic response. So instead of consuming more antioxidants, which please do, you can tell your cell, make more antioxidant enzymes, which is like a much bigger, powerful, positive response. So I could go on and on there, but that's basically the tipping of the scales, why we need something a little bit different than just good nutrition. And when your genes are doing the job, it's a bigger, more powerful job.
Yeah, sure. Brilliant. So Jessie, you're starting the training now in September. And who is that aimed for, Jessie? Who is it aimed at?
Yeah, so the embodied movement training is a 10-week course. It is most specifically designed for wellness professionals. So people from all fields. Some of my favorite folks to work with, some of the people who've really gained a lot, are people from the mental health space, the behavioral arts, therapists, psychotherapists, counselors, people from the nutrition field, nutritionists or general health coaches, the people who have some other expertise from one of the other ways to approach health and healing, but are missing the somatic part. You know, they know that the body wisdom has so much to offer. They just don't know those skills and the methodology to actually access it and integrate it into whatever their expertise is. And I have found there's been a handful of people like yoga teachers or personal trainers, or even people in the energy healing space, Reiki people who want to figure out how those dots do connect, how that physical and energetic really can work together. Because I think people who are on a healing path and they've gone to you for your expertise, that's what they need to know, is how to bring it all together in their practical life. So it's a 10-week course. We go through that methodology of first creating safety and resiliency in the body through very simple techniques, then release, realign, strengthen, refine, and you leave with the skills to professionally integrate it in whatever it is that you do. And of course, if you're just like a lifelong learner like me and you just want to know this stuff and use it as its own thing, which is what I have done in my career the past 10 years, you're welcome to come see what that's all about as well.
Yeah. The one word that comes to mind is vitality, Jessie. Vitality. That's like, wow, I think, wow, this is like, if anybody wants that extra edge, if you like, in vitality. And obviously, I mean, our whole lives are based on our health, really, isn't it? How we show up every day, energy-wise, affects everything. So if somebody wants that vitality in their life, this is where they need to be going, yeah?
Yeah, I think vitality is really our natural state, and we're just been bogged down with way too many things. And embodied movement is a very simple and practical approach to unbog yourself from that vitality. So I do have a way to work one-on-one. If you're like, oh, that professional training is like, sounds awesome, but I got to get through my own stuff first and come to my own vitality first. I do take people individually through that process. And, if you're like, this is exactly what I want to be taking the people I work with through, and use and incorporate that movement piece, that's where the professional development course comes in.
Brilliant. So Jessie, people can reach out to you through your Facebook group, Embodied Movement Training, and you also do Conscious Body Conversations podcasts, because I've been listening in. So is that the best way to get you, or through your website, or?
Yeah, so Embodied Movement Training altogether, it's a long URL, but Embodied Movement Training is the website. There is a contact form on that website. If you know John, he can invite you to that Facebook group, or if you know me, or if you're seeing this on social media, please do reach out. I can invite you to that Facebook group. Yes, and on YouTube, Conscious Body Conversations, I have had some of the most powerful chats with some of my friends in the field on subjects like grief and joy and really all of it. There's some really great conversations on there. Thanks for mentioning that.
I sort of sense that sort of spiritual dimension to all of what you do as well, Jessie. Yeah.
Yes.
So we could have a whole hour-long conversation about that as well. Yeah. But
it's what fuels all of it, really. Yeah.
It's a passion. Jessie, I love your passion for what you do, and I mean, your expertise and the way you show up is obviously, it's testimony to that you get results. So listen, thank you so much. It's been great to have the conversation. What I'll do is I'll put in the comments the links to how to reach out to you, and strongly recommend this 10-week training for anybody who wants more vitality in their lives. Yeah.
Thank you, John, so much. And everybody, please feel free to reach out. I love hearing people's stories. I'm a storyteller myself. I love hearing people's stories. So even if it is just to connect and share, what's kind of stored in your body, I would love to hear from you. And John, what you are doing in your Holistic Academy, bringing all of this high level education together, these high level experts together, this place where we can come together and kind of sift and sort from all of the noise out there, all of the conversations that are just, they pull us away from our sense of truth and self and higher purpose. I am so impressed with the space that you are creating here, and I'm so honored to speak to your tribe here, and thank you for what you do. We need beautiful spaces like this to move this world of wellness forward.
Yeah, thank you so much, Jessie, and it's been lovely speaking today, and we'll chat soon. Yeah.
All right. Thanks,
Yeah.
John. Thanks, everybody.
Okay.